So hi, everyone. My name's Heather Whiteman. I was, as David was saying, I've been in this space for quite a long time, over a decade plus in all things people analytics. So in affirmative action, bias, the utilities industries, and then recently for about 9 years with General Electric, GE, I've stood up about 3 complete people analytics teams from scratch, usually pretty small, and growing them. And then I am, in the process right now of actually transitioning a bit more to academia and teaching. So I will be building and creating the first ever people analytics course track within the Berkeley Haas MBA School of Business. So really cool that they are now recognizing people analytics as an integral part of their MBA program. And it will also be part of their business analytics certificate. So just a little bit of look how cool we are, guys. Yeah, we're getting into number 3 business school in the world status right now. So today, though, I do want to talk about data science and people analytics. So the area that I'm really passionate about sharing and moving along, where it's happening and why it's happening. But before I kind of get into that, I would like to first tell you, let's see if my clicker will get going. Oh, there we go. Okay, so first I want to tell you a story about Emma. Emma is maybe a real person. Technically, she's a royalty-free stock photo. But imagine Emma is just about to graduate from university. And I want to take you through Emma's story. So Emma is about to graduate. She's been spending a lot of time really learning how to do software engineering, how to code, computer science degree, a really robust program. And she's looking for her first job in the field. So she goes out there and she looks at roles that she could apply for, and she starts interacting with a chat bot, and it's asking her questions about her preferences and her skills and how do you like to work? What skills do you have? Where do you want to be? And it feels like a conversation. She's in a nice little text conversation with this company about the role, and it's sounding really good. It's a great fit, so she wants to apply. And as part of the application process, she sent an interview form. And the form is a set of questions, and it's being asked through a video, and it's saying, "Hi, Emma, so great to meet you. Could you please tell me about your experiences with this?" And she replies through her computer, webcam, and sends back a video response. And she lists through all of her skills. She lists through what she's learned, her experiences. She answers the next question, the next, and uploads her videos. She also takes an online coding scoring test that checks her code quality, gives her a level, and really says how much of that schooling can be applied. All of this then is run through a computer. And the computer does some AI video analytics and assesses her interview responses. And it actually codes and scores her comments, her cultural fit, her personality, and her skills assessment. And this is then how the company decides, wow, Emma looks pretty good. Now, at this point, no human has actually personally talked to Emma, but we have some algorithms and some data that says, wow, Emma's got the right skills. Emma's culture fits. Emma's personality and style is great. And this is all brought along. Now, Emma's school and this job, very far away. She's still maybe got some finals or got to pack up her housing situation or whatever. So she can't necessarily just go visit the office and check it out. The company wants to meet with her, but wants to make sure that she's committed. Do you want to work here? Is this right for you? So they hook her up with a little cardboard kit that comes in the mail, and she checks out this virtual reality on-site interview process. She goes to the office. She walks around the lobby. She sees what the break room looks like. She even sees where the product's going to be installed into the customer base of where her code would eventually end up on a platform and on a system. She's starting to think, wow, I can literally see myself here. I can see what it looks like. I see how it feels. I'd like to move forward. So she gets through that process, and both the company and Emma are like, this is awesome. This is a great fit. I want to work with you. They get further along through the interview. She's accepted, and before she even starts, they use all of this input from her interview process, and they assign her a buddy for her onboarding, as well as a mentor to help her with some of the gaps that they identified during her assessment. She's a great coder, but she's still, pretty early in her career. She's got a lot to work in. So she will get a predictive algorithm that will match her with the best buddy and the best mentor for her skill gaps and help her career move along. Once she's there in work, they hand her her company-issued computer. They give her her company-issued phone. They give her her company-issued badge. And all of this really works together because they've given her a smart badge. And this badge feeds off of everyone else. The company actually knows where she's walking around in the office, knows who she's talking to. They know whether or not she's stressed in her interactions. They know whether or not her voice is going up with excitement or it's a rather dull conversation. And they can see things on her mobile and on her laptop that tells about her productivity. They can see when she's logging in. They know how many times she gets interrupted in the middle of trying to write out her code. They have measures on whether or not her code is of quality or if she's committing it into the code base often. They even know things like whether or not she's doing new work, like, hey, client needs this added, or if she's maybe spending time on kind of hygiene or maintenance. Maybe she's in the code already and starts fixing some things, does some refactoring. They know her style. They know what kind of worker she is, and they can provide that feedback. More than that, they even know how she interacts with other people. Not just the badges and the running ins, but they have a sense for how many meetings Emma goes to, how many phone calls, how many emails. They can even understand her network power, how connected and intertwined she is with everyone else at work. And this is how she goes about her career for maybe, some years. And as she's finding spots, she's able to really develop and grow. She can take the learning that is personalized and aligned specifically to her skill set. So no more wasting time in this online or in-person course that runs you through each step. The algorithms actually know what she already knows, what she doesn't know, and doesn't waste her time on things she doesn't need to learn, just puts her at the just-in-time best next step of learning, and it gets smarter as she uses it and learns. So she's productive, she's learning, but at some point in her career, the data is starting to show up different. Emma's not quite coming to work at the same hours as before. She's still coming to work, but there's been a change in pattern. She's not quite interacting with people. The badges is showing that she's not interacting quite as much as before. And, maybe she's just working really hard. Well, no, because her productivity metrics show that really her quality and quantity are not quite as high. So something's going on. What's going on in Emma's career? Now, it could be something personal. It could be something outside of work. But it just so happens that Emma's just not as fulfilled in this career as she thought she was going to be. She's had the learning, she's had the metrics, but it's not quite fitting right. So she goes into this Career Explorer tool and is shown that she is a 70% fit to a product manager job. She never thought about that. I mean, she went to school to code. Actually, I do like that part of the role. What would I need to learn? What would I need to do that role? She finds that maybe part of her disengagement has to do with a lack of career advice. And so she uses an algorithm to suggest to her how she might be able to do that, and then comes back around to things like learning. She picks up some more product management skills, and even back to things like the apply process, either within her company or elsewhere. And we see her back on her loop journey. So this is the story of Emma. Now, who thinks that sounds futuristic? Okay, few people. It's not. It's not futuristic at all. I just told you what's happening today. These are the kind of things that are going on in data science, in people analytics. There are companies and organizations doing chatbots, doing video interviewing, using AI scoring. There is responsive testing that knows what you're good at, knows what you're not good at, can move you along. There are algorithms that are like Match.com, but for at work, and are much more appropriate. Or, yeah, Tinder doesn't have algorithms, does it? I'm not really sure how that one works. But there are these smart badges that capture so much data. There are workflow diagnostics tools that understand how you work. all sorts of AR, VR, responsive learning, all of these things are things of today. So the crazier part isn't about, I think in an earlier conversation was talking about the future. Well, the future is here. Now, I'll admit I haven't seen every one of these used in concert the way I ran it through for Emma, but it's really not so far out. That's what we're looking at today. That's where I'm seeing data science happening in the people analytics space and where I see it going in the future. And I kind of put up the definition of data science only so that I can kind of add to it. This isn't like the official, there's no such thing as, I think, an official data science, but it's a field of study that combines domain expertise, so in this case, knowing people, programming skills, loose term, mostly how do you get your stuff, and then knowledge of math and statistics to, here's the kicker, extract meaningful insights from data. And so that story of Emma is what I think is not only the meaningful, but the applied and practical use of people and data analytics to really have a positive outcome on the way things are going. So, the thing that I'm trying to get at is where is data science happening in people analytics today? And the truth is it is happening everywhere. It is definitely happening in every area of HR. I have seen it in learning. I have seen it in compensation. I have seen it in talent management, org design. Any of the, even just in general people management, there is a lot going on. So it's happening there. It's also happening in all industries. We are seeing some really cool advances in this space in the education field, nonprofits, government, obviously in the tech industries and many of the other areas. But I wanted to give kind of two examples that I learned of most recently that I thought were kind of neat. So learning. Learning is a great area to apply people science in new and different ways. So using algorithms, using data, using technology. One that I just learned about is there's this video game called Assassin's Creed. You have to kind of complete these missions and run through. I've never actually played, please don't ask me about it. But what I think is amazing, it's got really cool technology that places you in other locations. And they've recently extrapolated the game out to be a learning opportunity. So now students who are studying the antiquities can actually go to Alexandria. They can go to Egypt, they can look around, they can check out what life was like. Not only that, they can put on these headsets and go there with other people. So my buddy Nick over there, he and I, we could both strap on our headsets. We live about, 1,000 miles apart. We could both put on our headsets and go to Alexandria together and be like, dude, check that out, that's cool. You can learn, you could share. Imagine what we could do with that in our workplaces. Imagine what that could do for employee engagement, interconnectivity, for being close to your customer or your clients in a different way, maybe interacting with a virtual product. I think there's some really cool opportunities for how we can leverage that more. Another really cool application still in that vein is in the healthcare industry. So they are now using the same kind of technology to train people how to, for example, kind of work through the anatomy of the human body. A really interesting study came out where individuals who learned how to get through their medical kind of exams on a virtual human actually scored just as well as those in medical schools working on actual human cadavers. So they're learning at the same level, and in fact, they say the depth of learning, because you can go back, you can kind of, in this case, peel the muscles. Wait, put the muscle back on. Wait, take the muscle back off. I don't think you can do that with cadavers. Again, haven't tried that one either. But there's so much opportunity here for taking something that could be difficult, hard to get to, expensive. Preparing for this, I actually looked up whether or not you can buy human cadavers. First of all, it's illegal. Second of all, it's still pretty expensive because you have to transport, move them, all of that. I don't recommend it from what I learned. But, a VR headset, they're starting to make those pretty cheap now. They're definitely cheaper than a cadaver, and they're not single use. So we're starting to see the opportunities to do things like that. But where I see that extrapolating into our world is, how can you think about some of the high-risk jobs that maybe you have in your organization? Maybe there's health or safety concerns. Could you allow people to learn in a safe environment? Could you help, pilots and air traffic controllers have simulations that keep it out of the way? Would you be able to work through many of the more kind of dangerous aspects, or even some of the tricky ones, like call centers? Do you really want somebody learning how to deal with an irate customer, with the actual irate customer? Or could you maybe put them in a simulation where they learn the skills that they need to effectively do their job? So just some cool examples from today. My why went to the next line. So, another part of the title was the why. So that was a bit of the what, where it's happening. The future is here, it's going on. But the reason that it's here are, in my opinion, about three main takeaways. I believe this is going on today because of technology. Obviously, because of data and analytics, I know, no brainer. But then I would say third, and in my opinion, most important, is because of the employee expectations. So with technology, it's kind of straightforward. I just walked through kind of how, that might be what Emma looked like when she was checking out the place. But we have so much technology that can enable us to collect, use, and apply people data for data science applications in new ways. We are seeing some really cool things happening with talent management type startups. Many of the vendors here today have great examples of where you're able to dive deep and go into them, so I recommend meeting with them. And then we're seeing a lot of the big software as a service and cloud technology providers really trying to meet the people data expectations and build out some of the data science. So this is one of the things that's enabling it. If we didn't have this trend around technology going, we'd still be, we just wouldn't be doing data science. We'd still have some Excel files at best, lots of PowerPoints, and still trying to figure it out. So technology is half of the, enabling and why, and partnered with technology is data and analytics. So it's them together. We've always had data and analytics. I laugh sometimes. Machine learning and AI and all of this is so popular, and that is fantastic, but and a lot of the basic concepts around how to analyze data, how to understand data, many of those things have been around. It's just the application, it's the scale, it's the ability to take those analytics and take those practices and apply them through technology on a scale that we've never seen before and at a different level. And then more than that, it's the real-time analytics. So even if you had the best statistician who built, their own ML algorithm back in the day, well, they'd get the data, they'd scrub it, they'd clean it, they'd munge it, they'd test it, they'd do something else, and like 4 months later, you'd have the outcome. And oh, by the way, every employee that you were probably caring about at the time is like changed roles, moved out, new hires, exits. Where's the applicability in that? Now we have real-time analytics. That's really enabling data science to be present in people analytics. And then finally, I have to throw it in, and I love that this conference is always called People Data for Good, because I'm worried that people skip the data privacy and accessibility piece. I think that is not necessarily bringing data science about, but it better come with it. We need that kind of data privacy and accessibility so that we don't do harm with the data and bring about, things that were unintended consequences. So my favorite Deming quote is always, just because you can measure everything doesn't mean you should. And I always like to call out is, look, all of that with Emma is fantastic and great, and it is happening today, but how do we make sure that it's being used for good? How do we make sure that people get a fair chance at those tests? What if that AI interview scoring was biased? What if it wasn't letting in other people? What if Emma was actually, inappropriately targeted because of some characteristics that we didn't think about or control for? Also, what if it's just, invasive or creepy? Like, what if that interview told you about your personality and it's like, well, Emma's narcissistic? Emma might find that a little offensive and creepy, maybe. Who knows? But, we really should think about where data privacy should be important and implied and where data can be used to help kind of mitigate those effects. And then also I'd say I'm loving where the data science field in general is going, but people data is not the same as other data. There is so much you can do in the physical sciences, But quite frankly, a lot of times in the physical sciences, there are right answers. There are outcomes. There is torque. There is flow. There are different aspects that are correct. I dare you to find a correct measurement of what future potential for performance is. Good luck. That is not how people data works. We are very complicated. We are different. We have all sorts of factors that you will never, ever be able to control for. And that's actually why I think, maybe to an earlier comment, people analytics might be one of the more sophisticated data sciences because there's so many fluid pieces to move. These aren't dollars that have actual, oh, let's work out the interest rate and the change over time. These are people that flow, that change. Your data set will never be stable. This is a really cool science, and I would say it's probably one of the hardest data science areas to be in. And then, the third piece that I'd say is really brought to the people analytics piece in here is around the concept of employee expectations. So how many of you feel like the internet knows you? It at least knows your shopping habits. Your physical tracker knows that you haven't been moving quite as much as you should. Your Amazon account knows if you have pets and how often they need dog food. It knows a lot about you. My YouTube channel knows what I like to learn. I mean, sometimes I'm scared somebody on the plane is going to see me on the computer and those ads are going to pop up and they're going to know what I'm really into. Okay, so the internet kind of knows you. How many of you feel like your company really knows you? How many of you think that your company knows all the skills that you have? How many of you feel like your company, understands your stress level? My Garmin watch right now knows exactly how stressed I am. But does your company know how stressed you are? What about an Amazon subscription? Does your company give you a monthly dropped off at your door piece of motivation, engagement, or learning development for you to grow? Yeah. I had one lady raise her hand only for a minute, the whole time of that. But my question is, why not? I mean, at this day and age, employees feel like the world really is starting to understand them and know their details, but that their companies don't know them at all. Most of us spend more time in the office than we do on Amazon or YouTube. Why does Amazon and YouTube know me better than the company that I spend all of my time with? And why is that acceptable? And maybe it is, maybe it isn't, but I will tell you that employees' expectations are starting to lean towards, but you should know this about me. You should know that it's been 4 years since my last promotion. You should know that I've been taking those learnings because I really want to move into that other field. You should know, and yet we don't. And so this is an area that I think is going to be one of probably the biggest impetuses for driving people analytics forward. So I'm going to close it out just quickly with the story of Jermaine. Jermaine is a badass HR practitioner. And here's a day in the life of Jermaine. So like many people, he's got a meeting that he's got to go to. He's got a deliverable. He's got to get a workforce plan out. He's got a new talent initiative that he's going to meet with a team to see what they're going to do. And then he's got some emails he's got to deal with. One's a particularly important one from a manager about a pay raise. So Jermaine goes through his day. He goes to the all-employee meeting that happens first thing in the morning. And he is immediately receiving employee engagement scores directly from what's going on in that meeting. He's getting feedback from biometrics on the badges. He's getting a sentiment analysis of the comments that are popping up in the live chat during the meeting. And he's getting real-time feedback on scores of how people are feeling about this new announcement that the organization had. So he's processing all this. He's got to get his next deliverable out. He's working on a workforce plan. He's got a sales associate team that he's got to work through. So he goes into this predictive model where he looks at mobility and he's understanding where are our customers, where are our sales associates, what's the floor pattern look like? Do I have enough people to meet the sales quota that we're expecting for next month? What is my workforce plan for this particular region and store? And then he has to, he wraps that up. He's got a plan. He's put his pitch together, but he's got to get to another meeting because, nobody's days are like this. Meeting. So he's got to get to his next meeting. It's with his whole kind of HR team, and they're talking about a new initiative that they want to implement in the talent space. And So they actually go into their analysis and they start to evaluate this new HR process in terms of return on investment. All right, how much does it cost? What are we going to get out of it in productivity and sales outcome? But also, what's our return on emotions? We can actually analyze how this would affect our employees and their engagement and how it plays out. And then he gets to that one really important email around pay raises, and he goes into his nifty little tool, and it's a salary and bonus calculator that takes into account all of this about the person. What have they learned? What are their skills? What are their experiences? And then it matches that up with what skills are also in the company. What do we have scarcity on? What skills are scarce or experiences in the market? And how do we play them together? And then it gives a recommendation based not just on the person and their performance, but on their skills, on their capabilities, and how they fit into both the market and the future vision of the company. So I give you this story of Jermaine because Jermaine does not exist today. Whereas Emma's is all things that are today. These are some of the things that I would love to see my badass HR colleagues be able to do. And to kind of wrap it, I'll leave you with one task, which is you'll have another great speaker next, and then it's lunchtime. Have a conversation and network. Like, what do you think Jermaine would do? Like, what things are you like, wow, this is what it would mean to be using data science and people analytics to have really cool outcomes that are practical and applied. So here's just 4 of mine that I think would be amazing if Jermaine could do. And hopefully Jermaine's in high school or college right now, and he'll be able to do this pretty soon. And with that, I will just open it to questions, comments. I thought I was going to go quicker, David. Sorry, we might not have a lot of time. But feel free to connect with me if you want. LinkedIn. I have a YouTube, and actually this team's got a great one as well.
And a Twitter handle now.
Yeah.
We've probably got time for one question, if someone's got one. If not, I'll ask, actually. Obviously, with Emma, all that's possible today. Mm-hmm. I don't think many companies are probably doing all that. Do you think that, because a lot of people think it's the technology, it's not necessarily technology, is it the ethics or the capability levels in HR you think that's holding it back, perhaps, in companies? That's probably a long answer, I'm afraid.
Yeah.
I'm going to give you
not a long. First of all, I think everyone would have a different answer to that question, so I'd be curious what everyone else thinks of that. I actually think it's a strategy problem first. So in my experience, a lot of, especially HR teams, will see a really cool, shiny vendor, and that's amazing, but it's not necessarily tied into their strategy. So where I have seen it gone well is when maybe your strategy is already around interconnectivity between your employees. Maybe you've already identified that the flow of work is most important to your strategy. Then you might use biometrics and a badge. Don't go get a badge if that's not part of your strategy. If you want career mobility within your organization, then use a predictive algorithm to help people find other careers within the org. But strategy first, the pieces later, and I think that's sometimes what's been the struggle.
And Heather, you're around, so if people got any questions, they'll come and find you, but try and keep back on track.
Great.
So Heather, thank you very much.
Thanks, everyone.